It's been a fantastic day of riding. The weather has been absolutely brilliant, and I have had this little Triumph for company around these brilliant landscapes. This is the smallest Triumph yet. It's been developed together with Bajaj, and this is called the Speed 400. The biggest talking point about this motorcycle is, of course, its engine, because this is the first time that Triumph has done a single-cylinder engine. Developed, of course, with Bajaj, this is a 400cc unit, and it develops 40 PS and 37.5 Newton-meter of torque, which makes for healthy reading. There has been a lot of chatter on digital forums about how this engine is the same as that of the Dominar, but that's not true. Apart from the bore dimension, there is not really a lot that this engine shares with the Dominar's engine. The internals are different, the basic architecture itself is different. But why Bajaj took that bore dimension and worked around it is because they wanted to continue the study of the twirl and the tumble that happens inside, and then kind of take that learning and apply it in this format. So it's essentially based on the combustion properties of the engine, utilizing that to create something like this. But otherwise, this engine is completely different, and it's unique to Triumph in this application. When it comes to motorcycles of such kind, it's a very emotional thing, and that's why design of any motorcycle also matters a lot. With the Triumph in this application, which is the Speed 400, of course, Triumph has done a very graceful and elegant approach to the overall execution. I'm not really going to say that it is a tribute to any of the earlier Triumph motorcycles. It has its own unique identity, and that I think is a good thing. I would not even want people to think that this is essentially something that has been carried on from the bigger capacity motorcycles. Because really, if you look at it by itself, it's a very, very nice and very homogeneous sort of a design, great proportions. Everything that you touch and feel feels really of great quality as well. And the way it has been turned out with the tank very nicely merging into the midsection, and then of course the seat just kind of takes it off and it all wraps at the rear end in a very beautiful manner. All that is done very nicely, and it's a very tight package, so it does not really feel excess in any way. And that flair of design and proportion continues on other things as well. The fit and finish, for example, really of a very high level, and everything that you touch and feel, the switchgear, the welds, everything is really well done, and it does not really feel like it's a bike that goes at 2.23 lakh rupees. That is, of course, the introductory price. Once 10,000 bookings are breached, then the price is going to be 2.33 lakh rupees. But even so, at that price point, the quality that you get with this machine is really commendable. As you can tell by the muck on the motorcycle and also on me, I've been riding this for almost an entire day in very challenging but extremely exciting weather. We have had a lot of rain, we have been through some very tricky sections as well, and there has been constant splash of water, mud and whatnot. In such kind of scenarios, and also when you ride the bike or ride anything for a fairly decent amount of time, you start to understand it a little bit more at a more intimate level, and that's where the bike starts to reveal itself to you in a much better way. Let's start with the most crucial things, and one of the top things that matter the most is the platform itself, or the chassis. This one is a perimeter frame, twin tubes, but you can't really see any of it because it's all very nicely covered by the design of the motorcycle. The tank conceals it very properly, but if you remove this, you will see that it's a very strong unit. The twin tubes are hidden right underneath, and it really gives this bike its character and its balance, which is the most crucial thing for me. The second biggest topic is, of course, the engine and the gearbox. Engine developed by Bajaj, and they really have tried to kind of optimize the inertia on this for low-speed drivability, and it shows, because the moment you go beyond, say, 4,500 RPM, touching 5,000, beyond that, it starts to send you a great amount of vibration through the seat, the tank, the handlebars. Not really all that high on the handlebars, but on the pegs and the seats, it's really something that you're going to notice a lot. Not something that I was expecting, because we rode this motorcycle also on the track. Unfortunately, we could not shoot. We did not have the permission to shoot this bike on the track, but we did get a few laps, and it was a great starter of sorts to give you a feel of the motorcycle and what exactly it can do when it is in full attack mode. And really genuinely very pleased with it, because the transitions are very nice. It's very fluid around the bends, and if you encounter a nice chicane or an S-bend, it flips very nicely. It transfers the load very, very nicely. The steering is great and it just kind of flows very fluidly. But the suspension again was a little bit of a concern to me when I was riding on the track because it felt kind of soft. And Triumph has said that the international model, which is going to be sent out to Europe and other places, that has been set up a little softer than this one. But even this on the track felt fairly soft, and the rear kind of felt like it's going to give you a little bit of a trouble. It just kind of hopped a bit more than I would have liked. But other than that, this one was very, very planted. The straight line stability is absolutely rock solid. Touched about 162 kilometers per hour on the speedo, and it still had a little bit more potential to go beyond. But again, a heavy guy like me, even doing that is not such a bad thing at all. But the same suspension unit, when you take this bike and apply it on regular road conditions, a very, very different feel is experienced, because then the suspension comes into its own. It highlights the rigidity that it offers, but also at the same time the nice damping that it comes with. The front forks are developed by Endurance for Bajaj, and very nice golden, bright golden unit. Upside down fork, of course, 43mm dia, and this really does a very good job of giving you the planted feel. And contrasting to the experience that I had with the rear monoshock, the on-road application is very different. This is where the complexity of this 10-step, yes, there are 10 steps on the adjustment that you can have with a monoshock. That's where this bike really comes into its own. We have been riding it pretty much in default factory setting because not a lot of people, again, are going to even think of changing the settings per se. Only very die-hard consumers will do that. So we really did not want to change much on the motorcycle because we kind of wanted to see how the actual buyer is going to feel this motorcycle as. So on the track, this kind of felt a little compromised, but on the road, it really shines, and the ride quality is generally not bad at all. It absorbs almost everything. As I said, the front feels a little stiff, but the rear really, really balanced out very well. The fueling of this engine is absolutely wonderful. As I said, it does get a little buzzy when you go beyond 4500 RPM, but till 4500 RPM, it's generally very, very smooth. But beyond the vibrations, the nature of the engine is very, very smart. The power delivery is absolutely phenomenal, and the gearing is really good. I think the gearing or the gearbox itself is very flexible. The first is a little short, of course. It's not as short as the KTM's, for example, but the moment you get into second, and then of course from third, fourth and fifth and sixth gears, it's all so nice and so accommodating. It's very well spaced out. The gearbox is really, really flexible, and that combined with the flat torque curve makes the engine feel very responsive. If you look at the torque curve, it's almost very flat from 3000 RPM onwards, and almost about 30 Newton meter out of the 37.5 that this bike offers. It's almost like a plateau till about the red line. So in that way, the engine is very nice. It gives you instant response on the throttle, and just generally as a flexible unit to ride about in town, then open it up on the highway roads, it is going to give you a nice smile on your face. I was not very convinced about the seats because when I saw it, I thought that it's going to be a little compromised, but generally the comfort has been pretty good. The cushioning is great, and you don't really feel like you're compromised as such. Even big riders are not going to find much of a problem over here. But one thing that I will point out is that the seating geometry is not the most ideal. The way you put your feet on the pegs, that is, I think, a little too aggressive. I would have slightly wanted it to be a little bit more relaxed, but other than that, this thing has been absolutely phenomenal. The reach onto the bars has been great, and it just offers you a very good riding position. Again, you may call it nitpicking, but I'm not really a fan of these bar-mounted mirrors. I think a stem mirror would have been better because the field of view is not all that great. Coming back to the suspension, there is enough amount of wheel travel as well, 140mm at the front and 130 at the back. And this allows you to take this motorcycle a little off-road as well. We have actually taken it on some rough patches. I stood up on the bike as well, and it does not feel nervous. It does not feel like it's wavered in any way. So the balance, even if you're standing on the bike, is there. Yes, the position is not the most ideal, but then you're not really going to throw this bike into such kind of challenging terrains anyway. I would expect you to ride this motorcycle on open stretches of road and around some nice bendy roads, not on broken tarmac or any of the greasy stuff as such. That's where it's going to struggle. Of course, with the tires, these are not your off-road tires. Special mention to the tires because the Apollos have been absolutely phenomenal. We have not ridden the MRS, but yeah, the Apollos have been crazy good. We thought that because these sizes are available off the shelf, these are not really going to be unique in any way, but these tires have been developed specifically with Triumph for this motorcycle, and everything right from the carcass to the compound, everything has been developed with Triumph, and it shows because the grip levels have been very high. The clutch is otherwise pretty good, but there is one sense of snappiness that it gives you in very peculiar application. On part throttle or closed throttle application, when you shift up, there is no problem at all. But if you have opened up the throttle completely and then you shift up, it just kind of gives you a little jerky feeling. Again, that's basically to do with the management of the inertia in the gearbox and the engine. Apart from that, the clutch has been absolutely phenomenal and it has managed the power in a very nice way as well. So how would I sum up the Speed 400? For Triumph, together with Bajaj, of course, this is a very unique project. The engine developed by Bajaj, fantastic way of showing what your engineering capability is, because for a single cylinder engine, this level of performance is really very impressive. Vibrations aside, this thing is genuinely extremely entertaining as well. And the gearbox with the slipper clutch and everything is bang on point. The tolerances, very tight. Triumph has really proven its attention to detail over here. Everything that you touch and feel, as I said, really reeks quality, and you do not feel that this motorcycle feels compromised on any level. So that's where Triumph really comes into its own, because we have seen on its bigger bikes the quality levels, the way it feels when you ride the motorcycle, everything is of a very different magnitude. Very similar feel on this one as well. Of course, there are going to be a few challenges here and there, but overall, it's absolutely fantastic.